I think this thing is on. Still fighting the raspy voice, so this probably won't be real long. But you can see I got a quote there on the screen of supposedly Mark Twain. You never know who really starts quotes or originates them. But you can see there, I don't know if that's text is too small on the screen. But basically the idea is that when change is going to happen, it starts with people who are highly motivated, and people like that are upsetting normalcy, and so they're not well liked until later on, after the danger has passed and the change has come and everything's settling down, and then it's cool to be on that side, and then the majority will join. That's just how people are. It's how they've been in history. Most people in any group of any size and any topic, whatever holds them sort of together, are not the zealots, okay? But change only comes from zealots. And that's why zealotry isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a lot of motivation, which is a good thing. But what it has turned into is people who take zealotry as just blind obedience to something. That's not really what it is. A zealot is somebody who is really motivated about something enough to do something about it. So zealotry isn't necessarily bad. So now I'm going to, of course, I always target my audience is Christians, so I'm going to be talking to and about that from that angle, but it could apply to any sort of truth. And sorry, chat, I just now looked at the chat. Good to see you guys. Carlos, Chow, Teddy, all people. Having trouble hearing me. Okay. Let's see. Is anybody else having trouble hearing me? Because, yeah, I'm not speaking real loud, but I have my volume pretty high too. Let me turn that up a bit. Can you hear me any easier now? I turned it a bit up on Discord. The mic volume itself, I could turn up a little bit. I don't like to make the gain too high. Is that helping? Hey, Mark. Yeah, let me know if the volume's okay now. Because I don't want to go too far down that road without people hearing me. Okay, good. That's better. So anyway, yeah, I'm just getting over laryngitis and virus and all that, so I'm probably not as resonant as normal. But so what I was saying about Mark Twain and all that, if I can put that back up here, I have to hide the other one, is the quote about zealots and patriots in his case of, like the American Revolution, for instance. Any kind of political revolution, you have to have zealots. So if you want to change the world, that's kind of one of the components. And not much happens by the majority who want someone else to act. I've seen people get extremely outraged in recent weeks about something or another. But they always kept saying for other people to do something. Why doesn't anyone? Why do people not? But that person, of course, was doing nothing but being outraged. So zealotry by itself will go nowhere. And of course, lack of zealotry will go nowhere. So we're looking for that balance point again, hey, in truth. So I've got some verses up here, and you can see in the description the quote from Jesus in John 16:33. I've told you these things so that in me you will have peace. You will have oppression or trouble or tribulation, depending on the translation, in the world. But take courage, I have conquered the world. So Jesus has already conquered the world. Well, how did he do that? He did it with 12 dedicated people. That's all it took. But they had to be dedicated people. So, we'll look at these verses here. We got Romans 12:21, don't be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So that's one way you can conquer the world. Okay? Conquer evil with good. You can't fight evil with evil. You'll both lose. So when it comes to what's permitted by a zealot in trying to change the world, I think this is a pretty good guideline. The next is verses 1 John 5:4, for everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. So faith conquers the world because faith does stuff. Revelation 12:11, speaking of the future, they triumphed over him, the beast, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their life so much as to shrink from death. So you have to be so dedicated to even sacrifice yourself if you're a true zealot and you want to change the world. That's the level of dedication that's required. So, and that's really all the basic verses that I had. You have to be willing to pay the price. Going back in order of these verses, you have to believe, because without that, you will let some little thing change your course, and that's not that you can't follow through that way. And then use good to overcome evil. These are the three basic verses of principles that Jesus used to conquer the world, and we were told to use as well. So I'm going to leave that one back up for the rest of it, but like I said, this won't be real long. So there's this clash, like I said in the description, between realism and idealism, but you need both of those. You have to have an ideal to shoot for, something that you want to change to, not just tear down what exists, but have something ready to fill the vacuum. You know, most people want to rush off to change something without a real plan on how to change it and then what to do after it's changed. Just like in the political realm, where people say basic income for all, that's all fine and dandy, but where's this money coming from? You know, somebody has to do stuff to grow food, to make things, to build houses, and those people also need compensation for what they've done. So when people say, let's just give everybody basic income, that has never worked. It's been tried. It has never worked, and it won't work today. Look at Venezuela, for example. Socialism does not work, but that's what happens when you have idealism without any sort of plan of not only how to make the change, but what to do to correct it, to replace it. Hey, YouTube censorship. I think I said hi to everybody else. I'm sorry if I missed your name. But that's the thing is you have to have a balance between realism and idealism, or nothing's going to happen. Whether it's Christianity or political or scientific or whatever it is, nothing's going to happen if you don't have all the elements you need to bring change. So, especially when it comes to the world, whether, again, we're talking about secular things or religious things, spiritual things, the enemy we face in the world is both natural and supernatural. So your plan needs to have weapons for both arenas. And that's usually lacking in one or the other. There are Christians who are gung-ho on spreading the gospel, and that's awesome. But you have to deal with practical things as well. That's why you will often find Christian missions that also not cater to, but meet the needs of people that they're bringing the gospel to. And some people think that's disingenuous. I don't think it is. I mean, what good would it do to say, we're Christians, we're bringing the gospel to you, and as I think it's in the book of James, what good does it do to say, be warm and well fed, I wish you well, I hope everything goes well, and you do nothing about it? So there's actions with that faith, and that's, again, this balance thing. I'm just looking at the chat. The robust trial of universal basic income yet shows that it boosts well-being and doesn't decrease employment as some had feared. Let me read that again. Yet shows. I think something, I don't know, I'm missing a word or something, but I think what you're trying to say is that it has not yet demonstrated that it boosts well-being and doesn't decrease employment. And that's the thing, too, about technology in general. We use the term Luddites for people who are like, for example, would say, I don't know, if we have horseless carriages, then the people who make carriages or take care of horses are going to be out of a job. Therefore, we shouldn't do it because we have that today. Oh, okay. Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, that's just, it's unrealistic. I don't care if it's from New Scientist, but it's been tried and has not worked. Anyway, the Luddites, that people will call you if you say, well, and that's the thing with the job. We talk about robots and AI taking over jobs. I'm like, go for it, because if robots are making the stuff and they don't require compensation, only maintenance, and they can maintain each other, then we'll have all our stuff for free, and we won't have to work for stuff, basic necessities. We can do what we want to do because we want to do it, not because we have to or we'll starve. So I don't have a problem with AI as long as it doesn't go AWOL, and that's been shown to happen already. The problem is with it's idealistically, it's like, great, they'll grow our food, they'll produce medicines, they'll do operations, they'll make the world a paradise, and we won't have to lift a finger. But the problem is they're being programmed by humans, at least partially, and we've seen that AI tends to develop almost literally a mind of its own, where they've tried that in social media and the AI, or even this Alexa type things, and the AI can get pretty nasty and wish death on everyone and spy on people. And, that's the problem, is that it's not doing what we expect it to do. So any objection to AI is more going to come from that failure that was unexpected by the AI pushers than it does with the idealistic version of AI, which, like pie in the sky idealism is supposed to solve all our problems and nobody would have to work unless they wanted to. But as we're seeing, once again, that's not how it's turning out. It's turning out to be the nightmare dystopian future that we've all seen in fiction. But the point is that job loss shouldn't be the primary determining factor on whatever change is needed. We have to be concerned with quality of life, not necessarily that this or that type of work is gone, because those things come and go anyway. There used to be, we still have blacksmiths today, but not nearly as many as there used to be. Used to be one in every town that would make your farming tools and construction tools and ovens and stoves and, anything you needed that was made of metal. But now that's so automated for the most part and done in factories, but it still needs to be done. But the point is that as a job, as a career, being the village blacksmith or wagon maker isn't really going to support you these days in most cases. So idealism can, by itself, it has not worked, and it isn't going to work anytime soon. On the other hand, complete lack of passion is something I've been whining about for a long time of the Christian community. Wherever we are, we don't stand up. We're not zealots anymore. I mean, the 12 disciples were ready to lay down their lives for what they believed to be true, which was that Jesus rose from the dead. And so without that firm conviction, deep conviction, nothing would have changed. So why Christians haven't been impacting the world the way we should is precisely because we're not zealots. We don't have the passion. And the problem with passion, though, is it has to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not contained, but managed or controlled in some way. We need to direct passion. It can't just run wild. It has to be directed, or it does no good. So the problem with the reason we're not continuing to change the world for the better, as the case was in the first century, is because we don't have any backbone, any passion, any outrage against the evil in the world. We don't care enough to actually try to change people around us. And that's, again, how Jesus changed the world with 12 people. He changed the people around him. To borrow a line from the old movie Ben-Hur, if you want to fight an idea, you use another idea. So if there's some idea in the world that needs to change, you're not going to do it by overthrowing all the governments of the world, evil as they are, because they have a lot more resources than you do, and you would be a fool to go against them with your band of maybe 1,000 or even 1,000,000 zealots. Okay? Without the plan, the practical plan, the other side of the coin, to make something happen. You have to know your enemy, and your enemy is extremely powerful. But what you can do is change one person at a time, and to change them, as unbelievers have complained for a long time, that the Christians who are bringing the gospel better not bring it negatively. It just pushes people away. So if you're trying to change somebody's mind about something, you can't do it by beating them over the head, whether it's a Bible or a textbook or a flag. That's not how change is going to happen. If you sit and throw things at the TV or whatever it is, you may feel a little better somehow, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? So there's precious little in the way of practical plans and balance for the passion on one hand, and there's precious little passion on the part of Christians especially to actually care about changing the world one person at a time the way Jesus had it. So, I don't care what the topic is or what the cause is. You need to balance. You have to have passion and a plan. Realism and idealism. So without that balance, nothing will happen. You'll go in circles. It's like having a shopping cart with one of those wheels that's twisted to the side. You just have to constantly pull it away to make it go straight. In the same way, it's like when we have a loose community of mostly spectators, nothing's going to happen. You will go in circles or keep having to struggle to keep it moving in any direction. So if you're going to evangelize, and again, it doesn't matter whether it's the gospel or some secular cause, if you're going to evangelize, have a plan, have the passion and the discipline you need to control that passion and direct it so that you actually do something and not wait for someone else to change the minds one person at a time. Yeah, exactly. It's about focus. It's something we do struggle with on an individual basis too. It's not always easy, but at least to recognize what the problem is and why nothing happens. And sometimes it is out of our control. I mean, it's very frustrating to know that you, for example, can't just march into Washington, D.C. with like 1,000 bikers and bring change. I mean, that's been done. 1 million bikers. Nothing happens. It makes good press. The people feel good about what they've quote-unquote done. But what really changed? And why didn't it change is the more important question. Why didn't it change? It didn't change because it was unrealistic. It was only idealism. And protesting is really not doing anything. I mean, you can look at France and the Yellow Vest thing, but it's still dragging on with nothing really changing because the people in the Yellow Vest don't have weapons, and that's the only thing that the political regime respects. You have to physically take them out. And if you don't have an army to match theirs, what do you think is going to happen with your yellow vest thing? You may make some small victories just by inconveniencing the powers that be for a short time, but it's just like a reduction in gas prices. I mean, they bounce up and down, and people think, oh, it's less than it was last week, so something improved. Gas is cheaper now, and so yay us. But what they forget, it's just like sale prices, is they mark up the price and then knock it down, and then they'll mark it up some more, and it never goes quite down to where it was before. And people are oblivious because it's these subtle little temporary changes and they don't follow through. Yeah, controlled opposition. And they keep doing that. They'll let us work off steam because it's better for them in the long run that people do get to have little tiny victories. But if you look back, and even if people don't believe in history, you can look back on your own lifetime and see how people thought something was done and then it reverted back, and thought something was done and it reverted back. They will give you those small victories and then take them away later when nobody's looking or paying attention. So again, when you're looking at a big picture, change the world sort of scenario, or just changing your own life, whatever it is, you have to have realism and idealism, keep them balanced, keep them focused, have a plan and a goal and how to get to that goal and what happens when you reach it. So for Christians, that just means we're supposed to be spreading the gospel, and once we spread it, we're supposed to disciple people and not just leave them there. And I need to go and get the link for... Oops, that's the wrong one. And you don't want to see my dashboard. Let's go to the site. This is not my site, by the way. This is a group site. Salt and Light Discipleship. Let me plug that into the chat. This is a plan to do something once people accept the gospel. That's all this is. And I'm not sharing it. I thought I was. Hold on a second. Browser window. There we are. Let's get rid of Mark Twain's quote. Hey, Pillbox. Good to see ya. I'm probably winding down. But anyway, this is our group site we've been working on our one Discord server. And it's Salt and Light. Of course, you can see there. And we have Go to Heaven, which is, this is mostly my stuff, just to put stuff in the website, at least for now. How to be saved, that's what this is about. What salvation is, what it means, what happens next, and what happened at the moment of spiritual birth, all these things that can't be undone. So that's what Go to Heaven is about. And then we have a statement of faith of our group, which I think could work at just about any Christian group. And then we have what discipleship is, which one of the other people in our group adapted from another site. And then this course is basically an orderly progression through the videos I've been doing, the half-hour Bible lessons. So, yeah, this will hopefully be a place that it's a static website. It's be added to as I complete lessons, and if anybody else in the group wants to contribute, we can work that into, and basic questions that will hopefully build a solid foundation for a person's Christian life. And these are links mainly to my playlists of lessons that are divided up by those same designations. And you can see I don't have most. I'm still working on Isaiah right now. But once I finish the Old Testament, that's done, because I've already done the New Testament. But anyway, then we'll be, after I finish all the book studies, and we'll do the topical studies. The only topic I have done is the Covenants videos series. But that's the plan to do something after the person is saved. So we're looking ahead, And we're saying, first of all, we have to have the desire to see the world change, and then we have to have practical steps on going out person by person to make that change happen. And we can't force it. We can only bring the message and look for people who are seeking truth, not those who are hostile to it. It doesn't do any good to try to ram it down their throat, but to just express what the gospel is. It should be a positive message. It is the good news. That's what gospel means. And it is that people can be reconciled to God by faith alone because of the Jesus who rose from the dead. And that this is basically being adopted. And that this is a good thing. That's the message we're supposed to be spreading. But that's only the first step. Once we make a convert, which everybody's trying to do if they're trying to change the world, then we have to know what to do with them after that. And again, we can look at first the main two verses on that for Christians are 1 Corinthians 15, 2-4 and 2 Corinthians 5:20. The first one is, by this gospel you are saved, that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day according to the scriptures, which is to say, according to prophecy. So prophecy is a big deal. It's the fingerprint of God on the Bible. It is what sets it apart. It's been fulfilled 100%. And I'm going through detail by detail in the lessons to show that. So that is the good news. You can't scare or guilt or trick people into accepting adoption. That's our message. And here it is, the other reference in 2 Corinthians 5:20, we are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. And this reconciliation, the scriptures go on to say, means being adopted as God's child, and then when we're adopted, we get the deposit that guarantees our inheritance, the Bible puts it more than once. And so that is a positive message. You can't go around with the, the Ray Comfort, what did he call that? Anyway, the Romans Road stuff and say, you have to believe you're a sinner before you need your salvation. I'm like, no, you have to just know that you're being offered adoption by your Creator. That's all you need to know. That's our message. It's good news. Not you have to make people feel like worms before they will listen to you preach the gospel. This is totally backwards and totally unbiblical. So whatever truth, secular truth too, that anybody wants to spread, you're not going to do it with outrage alone. You're going to have a positive message, which is, why should I care about, for example, NASA putting out lie after lie with their CGI images and saying they went here and there and they've got these fancy expensive things that are on the edge of the universe and somehow can beam a signal back when you can't get a phone call across a city half the time. It's all well and good to be outraged about that, but what are you going to do with your outrage? You have to say, get people to say, did you know this? Do you care about it? And get a feel for whether they're open. And then if they're not, leave them alone. If they are, say, okay, now what? What happens next? What do you do with that information, with the red pill? If you're not planning to say, well, here's an alternative idea, then it doesn't do any good at all, of course. But the point being that if you're going to change the world, one person at a time, positive message, and have something to replace it when a person agrees. And if you do that a lot of, you get a person to believe you, then you have to tell them how to do the same thing you just did. And then there should be some sort of community, which never is going to happen as long as people will divide over secondary issues, such as I've, gone on and on about on this channel anyway, in Christianity especially, where Christians will divide over whether you believe that your salvation is secure, your adoption papers are good, and you can't throw them away or tear them up or burn them, or whether Jesus is coming a few years earlier than other people think they are, or whether it's okay to say Jesus instead of some alleged Hebrew name, or any of a gazillion other things, such as Bible versions. All those are divisions. And if people can't disagree within the group without calling each other heretics, and this happens in the secular realm as well, then it's never going to stay together and you will not change the world. So when, for example, the Flat Earth community wants to, there are people in it who want to get rid of all the Christians. They say religion, but what they mean is Christians, because they would gladly accept astrotheologists and Gnostics and devil worshippers, but they won't accept people who support the Bible. You can bash the Bible, but you can't support it. That's how it is in the Flat Earth community. So the problem is that they can't have unity. They can only have conformity with that kind of an approach and that kind of an attitude. Let's just get rid of these religious freaks. Well, you too are religious freaks. Everybody's a religious freak if they have passion for their cause. Everybody's a zealot. Hey, Miss Mira. Yep, a house divided will not stand. And that's the problem. If you're going to change the world, it's just like what has been, the Christian community has been bogged in the mud all these centuries because we can't get along. We can't disagree like adults. I mean, what do we expect to happen? And part of that is the quote I started this hangout with from Mark Twain, supposedly, that patriots are scarce hated people at the beginning, but when it's safe and easy to join their cause, then that's when the majority comes along. That's just how people are. There are people who care and people who don't care. And among the people who care, there are some who just don't have any discipline and want to just vent their spleen day after day after day and wonder why nothing changes. Well, it's because you're sending negative vibes all over the place instead of offering something positive and using your negative passion to drive that. It needs to be put to good use. All the energy, the highest powered engine in the world doesn't do any good if you don't connect it to the wheels somehow. And that's what I think the problem is with changing the world, whatever it is you're trying to change the world about. So anyway, that's really all I had to say. I didn't want to talk too long because I'm just, my voice gets tired easily because I've been fighting this virus all week, and B, I'm hungry. So, hoping that at least the Christians here have some kind of clue on, I know I'm preaching to the choir right now, you guys in the chat, but a clue about why things go wrong, why they don't happen, because we ourselves most of the time aren't willing to stand up and take the heat that comes from being, let me put that Mark Twain one back on here if I can find the right button here, that comes from being a patriot to whatever cause it is. That's just how people are. This is what we should expect. But changes can happen. You just have to get enough people with the same zealotry, the same passion, and the same discipline to know what message to spread and who to spread it to, and then what to do after you get people to convert. So, that's really all I had to say. There's no FE channel I can cover to direct people to anymore. Thank you, Miss Mira, also. Yeah, I don't run a Flat Earth channel. I just only have one cosmology playlist, and all I do is challenge standard cosmology. I say what I observe and how it doesn't make sense in any model most of the time. So it's not an offensive message, but it is a challenging one, and that's a good place to start, I think. UAP channel, I don't know who that is. Yeah, there was one, Taboo Conspiracy, but it went down because of the cost of running it, and we're trying to, some of us are trying to find a better solution. It doesn't have to cost that much money. I think the host that it was at was getting greedy or something. I don't know, but hey, Rhonda, Andres. So YouTube censorship, what does UAP stand for? I could put a link, or one of you mods could put a link in the chat. Yeah, if you can tell us how to find that channel, then maybe one of the mods can look it up and post a link there for everybody. But yeah, it's hard to find because even, people will throw this in my face that I say, look, I don't go to the Christian channels because they block me. And why do they block me? They'll say, well, because you're a troublemaker, you're a troll, you're always fighting with people. No, it's because I have convictions and I'm allowed to express them, and I don't start the fights anyway. Somebody will say, oh, if you don't read the King James, that you are lost, and I don't care what you believe. If you didn't read it in the King James, you're a lost person. And I'll say, well, here's a scripture from your own King James that says otherwise. Oh, banner. That's how it happens. Okay, that's why I'm banned at the Christian channels, and it doesn't matter what the topic is. I'll be banned at different channels for every time a different reason. You know, it's ridiculous, but they think I'm the problem. But unappreciate actual physicist. Okay, we'll try and find that channel. Let me see if I can look that up here. Whoops, I need to do that on YouTube. Voice is getting dry. Let's see. Physicist. Maybe that will work. Because I'm getting psychic instead of physicist on my search. Let's see. UAP. Let's try that too. Let's see. Oh, there's UAP. UAP channel. Oh, Chow's got it. Okay, awesome. While I was looking, he just so fast. All right, thanks, Chow. Oh, underrated actual physics. Okay. I'm sure he's unappreciated as well. There you go. All right, well, we'll have to check that out. So see, something good came of it. Okay. Thanks for the suggestion. Everybody go there next. I'm going to take a lunch break before I go there, but thanks everybody for coming, and next time I have a rant, and this wasn't really a rant, it was just I'm an analytical person, and I see a problem and go, what the, I have to write down what the problem is, and then offer perspective and possible solutions. So that's just why I did this. So anyway, thanks again, everybody. We'll see y'all later.